everything okay? We enjoyed. We'd like you to join us and sing Jingle Bell Rock. Is that correct? Or is somebody going to make some announcements?
No, that's it.
I don't want to jump the gun.
No, I start first. I do have an announcement. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Eleanor Yule, Board of Trustees Treasurer, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living in our beautiful... Thank you, I always forget. I am Eleanor Yule, Board of Trustees Treasurer, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living in our beautiful community of Apple Valley. Because of the health and safety of our community is our highest priority, we are requiring you to wear masks at all times while in the building unless you are speaking from the platform. We have some great music today, and our music director, Chris Ernston, is leading all of our music for our service. As a reminder, please leave your mask on if you choose to join us during our sing-alongs of our congregational singing. And the lyrics are in your program. Now we will open with Jingle Bell Rock. Where we recognize and celebrate each person as a divine and unique expression of the one Spirit in all. Together, we are co-creating a world that works for everyone. We teach and embody the science of mind principles to support our core values of love, healing, spiritual growth, oneness, abundance, service, and diversity. Welcome home. Please join me in reading the opening community affirmation. It's in your program on the left side. I believe in one power, one living spirit, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existing cause. I believe that spirit expresses through me and is the unity of all life. I believe that all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. Is there anyone here joining us for the first time? Okay, well, welcome everyone. If there was someone new, we would have a welcome packet. But we will go on to the announcements. Announcements for any upcoming events are in your program each week, along with daily affirmations. So please take it home with you and use it throughout the week. You can also see the announcements on our monitors before and after service. But we do have a few announcements that I would like to highlight today, and those are, first we have Tai Chi live with Chris Ernston right here in the sanctuary every Tuesday at 11:30 in the morning. Then we have Chair Yoga with Joe Caravo, also live right here in the sanctuary on Thursdays at 11:30. Both of these mindful movement classes are offered on a love donation basis. Come, join in, give what you choose. Offerings are then split. Offerings received are split 50-50 between our class facilitators and our center. It is great for the body, the mind, and the community. We are also very grateful to Joe and Chris. Thank you. And we hope to see you here. Also, this week we have a sound bath with Tamara happening this Thursday on December 16th at 7 p.m. She still has a few spots open, so if you are interested in attending, let Brandy or Tamara know. This is limited, I think, to 15 people. Immediately following this service today, we are having a holiday choir rehearsal with Chris, and new singing masks and inserts will be provided. Also, rehearsal with masks is going to occur at 9 a.m. sharp on Sunday, December 19th. That's next Sunday. If you are interested in joining or have any questions, see Lori. Also on December 19th, we are having a holiday sing-along throughout the service. Reverend Sharon Hudson will be here leading the service with us. And following the service, we are hosting an in-house arts and crafts fair. The tables will be set up in the garden room for your shopping pleasure, and we will have some refreshments in the social hall during our shopping time. Afterwards, our monthly board meeting will occur immediately after the Arts and Crafts Fair, and that will be held in the social hall, and everyone is welcome to attend. Mark your calendars for Sunday, December 19th. You don't want to miss it. Now I would like to invite Tina up to come speak about the upcoming election for our Board of Trustees.
Good morning. So I'm the chair of the nominating committee, and we're starting to take names. Anybody who's interested in being on the board, please see myself, Lori, or Susie Clark, and so we can get those names in. has to be, we have to, start working on that now because, when we have to have all the nominations ready, before we have our big, the election in January. And, we have to give 21 days notice for that meeting to all the members, so, we wanna get started on that. The requirements for being on the board are you have to have had a certification class, a certified class, within the last 5 years. You have to be a member. Tithing in some way or another. Can't think of anything else. That about covers it. Anyway, we'd like for, if you know someone that you think would be a good board member and you want to nominate them, please do. We will contact them and find out if they want to be on the board. And if you are wanting to be on the board, please put your name in. If you have questions about being on the board, again, see me, see Lori Smith or Susie Clark.
How many positions?
Right now, there are actually 5.
5 positions open.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Why?
Why so many? Because we extended, they voted to extend the number of board members. So they changed the bylaws so that they are allowed to have 9 people on the board. Any other questions? Okey-dokey.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, every Sunday we share the vision for our new minister. We ask you to hold this vision with us throughout the week. Printed copies are available on the concierge table for you to take home as well. Our purpose is unity. Our vision is to be a dynamic teaching center where we learn to experience the Spirit within us and to express our fullest potential in life. Our new minister is comfortable with shared leadership, accessible to our community, has humor, tact, and is kind. Our new minister is intelligent, a fine teacher of science of mind, an inspired speaker, and feeds us spiritually. Our new minister lives the science of mind with integrity, has a consciousness of abundance, is authentic and unbiased. Our new minister is enthusiastic while being emotionally mature, committed, and connected to our community, and is wise in all of their affairs. Now I would like to welcome our practitioner of the day, Lori Smith.
Thank you, Ellie. I invite you to, please join me as we read Dr. Ernest Holmes' promises together. They are on the front page of your program. Here we go. I keep the promise that I have made myself to affirm in this moment that I am abundant, healthy, strong, and happy. I keep the intention to daily speak this truth to my inner soul, telling it that it is wonderful and marvelous, that it is one with the great cause of life, truth, power, and action. I whisper these things into my soul until it breaks forth into songs of joy with the realization of its limitless possibilities. I assure my soul. I invite you to turn your attention within as we focus on gratitude for all that life has brought to us this year, knowing that everything is always evolving for our highest good, and we take this time to remember who and what we are. Love. We will be singing I Am Remembering. Service to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. The Unity Candle represents the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We light the first candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality.
Something's happening. We're going with it.
We light the second candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the third candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of compliance with the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle, honoring all forms of new thought, the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principle. We light the 10th candle for inclusivity, to affirm our commitment to all, that all are welcome here. And as Brandy lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light names of loved ones, knowing that they have the experience of spirits eternal love. So I invite you now to simply close your eyes as we move within. We know that there is only this one power, this one all-providing source. And this source is love. We are immersed in this idea of love. This idea of remembering, of becoming, of being. In this moment, we are at peace. We are still. We are blessed. Mindful of this perfect now, this idyllic and grateful state of being. And in this, I give thanks. I give thanks for all those who make this service possible. All the volunteers. Those who serve tirelessly, whether on the board, in the sound room, bookstore, in the office. We are ever grateful. Blessing our practitioners who are here to serve, to remember and love you at all times. And let us bless Reverend Mike and his message today. We are so grateful that he is here, and knowing that his message touches us in wondrous ways. So I release this word, knowing it is heard, it is done, it is good, it is God. And together we say, and so it is. And now we have special music.
Better place. I wanna keep that smile. Oh, knows the way I feel. That's alright, that's alright, that's okay. I wanna make my world well a better place. That's right, I'm gonna keep that smile on my face. I'm gonna teach myself how to understand. I wanna make myself a better man. Gonna make my world a better place. Gonna keep that smile on my face. I wanna teach myself how to understand. I wanna make myself a better man.
Wow. Okay. Our guest speaker.
Thank you.
Our guest speaker for today is Reverend Mike Murrow. Mike Murrow is the spiritual director of the CSL Granada Hills, where he has served since September of 2009. He released the book Blue Collar Spirituality, Finding a God That Works, on Labor Day of 2020 to enthusiastic response. After 30 plus years in the construction industry, first as a carpenter in the Pacific Northwest and later in Southern California, Mike built a successful building contractor business in the SoCal area, which he made the laboratory in which he proved the principles of conscious living. He is often used by members in his spiritual community for treatment work around business and career concerns, and he is very effective in this area. Mike is a big fan of working people everywhere and works diligently to help others realize the idea that there is a power for good in the universe available to everyone, and you can use it. His workshops for working people are finding enthusiastic audiences. Mike loves his spiritual community in Granada Hills, and as the regional support coordinator for Region 2, he loves supporting our spiritual communities that are inclusive, respectful, and sustainable. Reverend Mike feels that joy is a near natural expression of the divine as spiritual living. He is delighted to share his experience, hope, and love today, and he is open to any questions or even prayer requests. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Mike Murrow.
So how y'all doing out there?
Good morning.
It's great to be here in the land of Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Right, so I remember those days. In fact, I even wrote a song about it once, Chris, called Weekend Cowboy.
Ooh.
I wish Roy Rogers was my daddy, and he'd ride off and spend his day with me. We'd pretend I was a rootin' tootin' cowboy, riding over to see my friend Sky King, where we'd search the western skies for nasty outlaws. No one was a better shot than me. Yeah. Yeah, and I actually performed that at I think it was Trace Hermanos out in Mojave a long time ago. Yeah, so I'm familiar with the high desert. I'm going to take these off so I can see it, and then when I lose my space, I'll put them back on. So, but I am here to speak officially to the theme of Centers for Spiritual Living. You guys are working with a global vision, as we are down in Granada Hills. The theme for this month is, actually, is that right? Yeah, the journey of becoming. And today we're speaking to the joy of becoming. Now, Whether I actually speak to that or not, we'll see. But that's the intention. And I have to tell you, I do have a connection to the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living in that Paul Brayton, some of you may know Paul Brayton. He was one of my first staff ministers when I came to Granada Hills 20 years ago. And then Skip Regan was one of my staff ministers and teachers when, and I came up here for his installation. And yeah, he was ordained by them. And of course, Valerie Reeves was trained in Granada Hills by Maureen Hoyt, so you can see there's a lot of cross-pollination. And of course, Reverend Doug was a good buddy of mine, and I know all of you, and I appreciate that all of them have done a stellar job each within their own way up here in the Apple Valley, Victorville area. And years before that, years before I heard of religious science, and certainly not the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living, I worked remodeling the George Air Force Base fire station. And if you bought a Christmas tree at the old Home Club in Victorville in the early 90s, you probably bought a tree from me. So yeah, I did that for a while, and then we used to scrimmage with the Burroughs when I was in high school playing football. That was back in the mid-70s. So I'm very familiar with the area, is what I'm getting at. And for those of you who may be new to the area and feel that Apple Valley is in the middle of nowhere, I've actually lived in the middle of nowhere, and this ain't it. So this area may be San Bernardino County's last chance for civilization. I'm not sure. But what I do know for sure is that this region has the potential to grow into a real hub of new thought growth in religious science in the new thought area. So we have Apple Valley in the east and Antelope Valley in the west. So both sides of this part of the desert are covered, and with beautiful people who have a legacy of consciousness that has really stepped out and built it so they will come. I just want to acknowledge that, right? So I don't know who built this place, but what an amazing testimonial to the consciousness of spiritual community, right? Way out there in the desert somewhere, right? And so you have this beautiful community here, and I want to speak to those of you who are online who've been maybe a little shy about coming into the service. There is lots of room here. Yes. It is safe, and it is festive, man. It is Festivus all over the place. The beautiful tree and the decorations. And so if you haven't been in here, come in next week, on the 19th. Sounds like you got a nice Christmas program going here. So I just really love what you're doing here. I love how you're being so intentional about your next minister. I love that you're, reinforcing that vision statement every week. And like you, down in Granada Hills, I too have people who came before me who built our place. We have a physical place as well. And so I'm very aware that we are all of us standing on the shoulders of those who have come before us and left us a legacy of sacred space that keeps our overhead low. Right? Keeps our overhead low, which allows us to find ways to pay ministers fairly and adequately so we can attract and retain the best candidates possible, the best leaders possible for our spiritual communities, who are demonstrating, our spiritual communities demonstrating by example the consciousness of prosperity that this center, my center, affords us. So good for you. Good for you, good for Granada Hills, good for Antelope Valley as well. And also, you have men here. That's kind of nice. I'm like basking in the glow of testosterone around here. So, because that's not the same thing that's going on down in Granada Hills. I don't really know why, but maybe I'm running them off subconsciously. I don't know. But and then speaking of connections, today's talk, the facilitator of the Global Vision this week happens to be my prayer partner, Reverend Cheryl Bell of the Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living. So if you're ever in Vegas on a Sunday, go check them out. They're out sort of by Summerlin, sort of. And her and Reverend Stacy are doing a great job out there. And so this morning, speaking to the journey of becoming, I think, is so appropriate as not only we emerge out of this COVID era, and I am saying emerge, right? So yes, there are things going on in the outer world, at least down below appears to be. Do you guys still say down below? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that was a thing when I was a kid. And we are emerging. I say emerging because we can't go back to where we were. And this year's different. We've had a shift in consciousness around this thing known as pandemic. That there is so much more now that we know about how to keep each other safe. Remember, we were freaking out. It was on the surfaces and everything else. So we know how it's spread now. We know now that we can be mindful and safe. And if you're in a religious science church and you're not practicing mindfulness, maybe it's time. and so we are better prepared than most, I would say, to be safe moving forward together, in spite of any philosophical differences around the whole range of issues that have come to light over the last 10 years or so. And through all of that, here's what I know. What has been revealed has been revealed to be healed. Within ourselves first, taking responsibility for our own consciousness. For we understand that the way that we think shapes our perceptions, the way that we perceive the world is the way that we see the world, and that the way that we think is the way that we act. Right? But we can change the way we think. We can change the way that we think. So what this means is that there is within each one of us a recognition that there are places within us that we could bring some attention to, the shadow, if you will. Right? And that all is really required is that we bring what? The light of spirit of our awareness to it. And that it is the light that dissolves the shadow. And notice I'm not saying darkness. I'm saying shadow. So there's already light in there, right? So you can't have a shadow unless there's some light. Yeah? So I think this is a great time in many ways as we're pulling out of this thing. It's a great time to look at how far we've come. It's a great time for the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living to see how far you have come. Right? And by the way, speaking of which, I love the new parking lot. Good job. We got one of those too, right? Doesn't it feel prosperous when you drive up and there's no weeds out in the parking lot? You don't have to worry about our less able people tripping over the heaving. Yeah.
There you go. Thank
So
you.
I know. So what I know about all this is you don't need some minister from down below to tell you how it works, because the evidence is here that you clearly know this. And that you have a mighty consciousness, each one of you individually, and the race consciousness, right? The community consciousness that you're creating together, right? I mean, clearly demonstrating the interim minister in Reverend Dr. Sharon Hudson, right? So, I mean, you attracted an ace. I mean, you got first team varsity, all league up here, right? The greatest of all time. So good for you. So your journey of becoming is now ready to blossom into the joy of becoming. The joy of becoming a community poised to attract the very best talent for your new minister here at the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living. So, as I said, Reverend Cheryl is a friend of mine, and she wrote this week about the joy of becoming, that when learning a new skill or undertaking an adventure, right? So, if nothing else, you've been doing that, yeah? Undertaking an adventure, a critical step is stepping into, a critical step is sitting at the plateau to assimilate and integrate our experiences before finding what's next. Before finding what's next. And it's in this quiet space that there is time for deepening, for steeping in that experience, and the joyful expectancy of knowing we still stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and we are, you and I, are their dreams fulfilled. So you are the dreams fulfilled of the congregations that were meeting in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Maybe some of you were even here. Now, when I read this, I knew I had to share it with you, for this is where I see your community. And I applaud you for not only sticking it out, it's not easy to transition, right? From one minister to the next. And I applaud you for not only sticking it out, but also doing the healing work with Dr. Sharon. Necessary to call forth the very best in leadership, first within yourselves, and the new minister who will lead you to what's next. So Tina spoke to, people who are interested in being on the board of trustees. Sometimes it's kind of tough to see how the sausage is made around the way churches are run. And all those qualifications are great, and I would also add to work well with others is also something you might want to consider, being a board member. So, I applaud you and knowing that you are now ready to welcome that new minister for what's next. And so I would, again, encourage those of you watching online to come on down and see what you're missing. Because there's some really great people here, and there's a great vibe. There's a great vibe physically in the center. So I encourage you to come back when you feel safe to do so. So, and for those of you who may only have an experience of watching this center online, I would just invite you to come and meet your next best friend that you haven't met yet. So, High Desert Center for Spiritual Living is exploring the joy of becoming in real time. And you and I are sharing that experience together in slightly different ways. So, and we're kind of feeling our way down in Granada Hills. We have, one of the things that really makes me feel safe in here is just how vast, this is like being outdoors. It's so vast, right? With the high ceilings and so forth. Granada Hills, low ceiling, very compact, right? So I'm not like, doing that. I'm not doing all that, but I'm making sure I stay vast. So we're exploring these things. All of us, all of our centers, all of our churches through globally are figuring out how to do this thing forward. And as I've said, that we do live in interesting times. Some really interesting things have been going on. This COVID thing has really called us to step up and question really some of the most basic principles of our teaching. Have you noticed that? Right? How to live in this philosophy with its broad claims around health and prosperity and still be true to science of mind. How about that, Rev? Right? I don't know where you come down on such reflections. I'm just going to share my own, because I've landed on my own conclusions, which are really what I started with back in October of 2000. That we study the science and practice of the science of mind. That's what we do here. Mind. The Spirit. Omniscient. All-knowing. Omnipresent. Everywhere present. Omnipotent. All-powerful. Omni-active. Always active. First cause. Christ as principle. Expressing and demonstrating in, through, and as our life. This is the science of mind, and not the science of wishful thinking. We wish for nothing. We know that behind back of all is a living spirit awaiting yet another avenue for its creative expression, including and especially your life and my life and everyone else too. That we are having this co-creative experience as life together, including those people who you really don't agree with on much about anything. Right? They too are having their own experience of the divine by means of their own consciousness. And we need to be okay with that too. Right? So, don't you just love knowing this kind of stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. Doesn't it excite you so much that you want to share it with others? Yeah. Especially that one family member or friend who finds themselves still spinning their wheels, trying to find their way in life. Right? Trying to get some traction. Still. They can't seem to get any breaks. Do you know anyone like this? They feel weighed down by the world. And just can't get a break from the man. Right? People still talk that way. And then you try to explain what it is that you know. And how it can change their life. And they look at you blankly with that, what the hell are you talking about? Look. Right? And this is why I wrote this book. Blue Collar Spirituality, for a couple of reasons. One, the 20s were kind of a tough year for men. Did you notice? Remember that? Right? There was Me Too going on, and there was all this stuff, and so men were being called to account for some of the stuff that we kind of slid on for many years. Right? Did I hear an amen from Chris? Yes. Right? I mean, frankly, I was really clueless about a lot of it myself. Right? And I'm watching this whole conversation take place, not so much in our centers, but out there, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, man. I was that guy. Right? What's different? Well, religious science is well, first of all, I quit drinking. That was a good start. Right? I put the plug in the jug back in '88, kept it there. But I was 13 years sober. And I was that guy spinning his wheels and had no excuse anymore. It wasn't the booze, right? I couldn't use that as an excuse anymore. It was religious science, the principles in religious science, and being in spiritual community that changed that. So this book, Blue Collar Spirituality, Finding a God That Works, uses the metaphor of trade work to have an exploration of the divine for that agnostic friend or family member that you have who doesn't want to hear any of that God stuff. Right? So so it's really lying in wait and don't talk about God until the last chapter. Just kind of reel them in slow. Oh, life sucks, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, life sucks. Right? And look at all the ways that it sucks. Right? And yet, now, but it sucks because we have a certain mental concept that it sucks. And so I talk about simple things, like a calendar. Has anyone ever felt like they were a slave to the calendar? Right? And yet, who sets our calendar? We do. Right? So it's a mental construct, and we're at choice, but nobody's talking about God yet, right? So it's speaking to, and it is speaking to working folks. When I was, before ministry, I was always work, right? And so busy taking care of business that I didn't really have time to think about why my life was the way it was. Because I really thought it was all my ex-wife's fault. Some days I still do, I think. That was like 20, 30 years ago. Come on, man, get over it. Right? I'm getting another amen over here. Chris, you and I are going to have to talk after the service. So this book speaks to working folks, maybe even agnostics, right? About something that you and I have already discovered here. And that is what we think shapes our life, and how there is a power available that we can utilize to affect change for good in our life. And I have no idea where I am in time, but I'm just going to keep talking. So the first chapter of the book presents the reader with an all too common life situation. There's an aspect to life that the working man experiences, talks little about, and often has no idea how to express. Simply put, we are often so busy living a life that is full of struggle or even mediocrity that we just don't want to take the time to sort through it all. Like materials left over on the job that just get stored away for someday. We think about it tomorrow. And in time, all we are left with is a yard. We are left with a yard full of junk and clutter. Anybody relate to that? Yeah. Now, if this happens to be your life, this isn't a judgment. It's not a judgment, but rather an observation of the lives that many people live. For self-employed people, this is often complicated by the fact that we eat what we kill. Self-employed people, commissioned people, yeah? That where if there is no sale, there is no money. So consequently, we move from job to job, rarely or never, taking stock of what we've learned as we chase the next gig, never really knowing for sure if our efforts have been profitable or not, until we visit the tax man at the end of the year. And by that time, of course, it's too late. So this book, that's how it starts out. That first chapter, it's only 5 chapters, by the way. You can read this in a couple hours. Right? And it's written, it's designed to read fast. Because I figured, and it is kind of, women really like the book. Let me just say that. I think it's because they can think of all kinds of men they know who need to read it. And that's okay. Right? But they also can relate to it because they get that it's meant, I think women deal with metaphor a little better than guys. Outside of these rooms. And it's written in everyday language, so there's a couple cuss words in there. There's no F-bombs at all. And it's stripped of jargon, as much as I could. Stripped of jargon, stripped of any God talk. And it is a short and quick read. And then so here's the chapter. Struggle is not set in concrete. Struggle is not set in concrete, so I talk about the difference between pain and suffering. Right? These are things that we know. Right? So imagine the guy out there, outside of this teaching. Being too busy to be effective. That's in this first chapter. Chapter 2 is entitled Reset the Forms. And in here there's a story about my dad. When I was, before I had put the plug in the jug, and he's just watching me live my life. And my dad was from Leitrim, Ireland. And he looked at me sadly one day and said, "Son, your life is like the wheel on a manure spreader, just one continuous round of shite." So that story is in there, but what we know about that is that the wheel on the manure spreader is also the wheel of Dharma, right? That there is a law of circulation at work in the world. So without calling it that kind of stuff, I'm using humor to speak to that. The wheel of the manure spreader versus the wheel of Dharma, and how we're living in a thought world. And using, again, our working experience as the metaphor. And then just talk about, so what is it that we know? Working people. And there's a lot that we know. Einstein himself said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And the idea here is to encourage working people who for whatever reason, did not get a formal education. And there are all kinds of reasons for that. Financial, time. For me, I know for myself, I was tired of being broke all the time. I just wanted to get out there and start making it happen. So whatever that is, but there's still a lot that we know. That there's a lot more to intelligence than simply knowing a bunch of facts. Right? Which, of course, is the goal of education at any level, right? Is to encourage the student to think critically. So this is my whack at that. So imagination is more important than knowledge. This one is kind of, might hit you weird, but the delusion of God's will. The common denominator. Who's the common denominator in your life? We all know what that one is. Right? We are. So there's a discussion about that. And then there's also this notion that you are not, you, gentle reader, you are not your challenge. And so we know this too. And the next chapter is the answer is in your hands. It's the idea of the power of paying attention, or what we would call awareness. Holiness being redefined, that you're the expert in your own life, so you have expertise. Right? So if your car doesn't work, are you going to take your car to a mechanic or to your lawyer who's got all this education? Right? Who are you going to take your car to? Now, if your lawyer knows how to rebuild motors, great. Right? But the idea is that, from a woman's perspective, right? So if you get your hair color wrong, right, are you going to go to your doctor, or are you going to go to your hairstylist? Right? That there's expertise and wisdom and so forth, with all the all that stuff. And that we live, move, and have our being in this field of infinite possibilities for good. That is always available to us. Right? And in fact, we are playing in this field of infinite possibilities for good unconsciously until we come to ourselves. Right? That's the story of the prodigal son. Remember, he came to himself. And then we see, there's a different way to live. That in my Father's house, even the lowliest servants live better than this. So we come to ourselves and realize that we can choose to live consciously. And then finally, the big reveal that this power is free, which is my favorite price. Right? So I'll just share you a little. So I've been sober a long time. I got sober through AA, and I thought it was all a scam. And I wasn't really sure if I was one of those people or not. And I kept waiting for the catch. But they have this thing called the seventh tradition. Right? The seventh tradition, which is they pass the basket. Right? But it's through the idea that we are self-supporting through our own contributions. Right? And that AA is not allied with any sect or denomination. But we got to pay the life bill. And I thought, okay. The only thing I need to do here is keep showing up. Which is really what New Thought spiritual communities are also. Right? that you're not going to get hammered on this thing of giving to get, because we don't teach that. We teach in the law of circulation. We teach in the law of generosity, right? That we teach cause and effect. And so the effect of our generosity is to live a life that is more generous in many ways, not just financially, right? In love, right? And maybe not in intimate ways, but certainly in friendship or in the relationships that we're already in. They deepen. Not because someone else is changing, but we are accepting our own. We're making sure our side of the street is clear. Yeah? So this power is free. God redefined through life experience. God as divine intelligence. That was a big one for me. Right? To shift and lift our own thinking. So this has a whole notion of, and this comes right off the construction days, where I would have this gigantic pile of earth from the foundation in the backyard, because I was mostly a remodeling contractor, right? And then how do I get that big pile of dirt to where I need it to be? One shovel load at a time. One wheelbarrow load at a time. How do I lift something that's really heavy? Excuse me just a second. How do I lift something that's really heavy? I shift it and move it. Shift and lift. Shift and lift. The same thing as working with our thought. We're working with the tendency of our thought. Right? So we're not freaking out going, oh my gosh, that's a bad thought. Oh, I thought bad. Oh, right? You kind of do that when you're new to, remember your first foundations class, right? Oh, I shouldn't think that way. Right? What we're working with is the tendency of our thought. Right? So when 51% of our thinking is in the affirmative, that's more than halfway. Right? And then we kind of get momentum. And so all of these things are discussed in the book in a clandestine way. And then at the end of each book is a little toolbox, what I call a toolbox. And they're just a couple of questions to encourage the reader to think ahead to the next chapter, which makes it a great book for classes. Right? And so my intention is, and where the interest has shown up, is men wanting to use the book for men's groups. Like I said, many women are, I'm grateful for this, they really love the book, and then they're sharing it with whomever, right? So it is a male voice speaking to men, but there are many women today in the trades, many women in the trades. And it's a wide open field for women in that regard. I've taught this class a few times now, marketing to lumber yards and to supply houses. 12-step groups also like it because it's very kind of a higher power idea. And so it's very much aligned with the 11th step. And really for anyone who is struggling to get ahead. It just needs a little insight. So ultimately the book, hoping, has the potential to pull working people and small business people into our centers. And so this is a great time to promote this kind of class because it's the end of the year, and for tradespeople they're going to they kind of lie a little fallow. Not since it's quit raining. I don't know if there is a slow season anymore, but it used to be, that first quarter of the year, times were a little slower. And also with there's this big push within the national government for more blue-collar type work. So I feel like the book has got the possibility, because really what I want to do, there's a section in the back to attract men through attending churches like this, where I made friends with people like you, within the diversity and inclusion. I learned to be diverse, but then I learned what that inclusion component means, inclusion within my own heart. Right? So it's not just enough to know that I think certain things. I also need to stand with people and be allies, to no longer be complacent. And this is probably the only controversial part. So I have lots of friends who read the book, and they love it. But there is an epilogue. And so for some folks, that may be challenging because it was written in June of 2020. And it's basically challenging all of us to understand that faith without works is dead. And so I used to think that spiritual but not religious was like the new religion. Right? Anyone who's done the online dating thing, that was like one of the things you could check. So I've been told, I've never done it. Right? Spiritual but not religious. I thought it was a new religion, but it's really, I think really now. Yeah, I'm spiritual, just don't ask me to do anything about it. Don't ask me to get up. Don't ask me to do it. And I think that needs to be revisited. Right? And so this, too, is the purpose of the book, is to find a way, to find a God that works uniquely for you. Because what I think about the Spirit doesn't help you at all. What you think about the Spirit is what is most important. And you know, that's true if you are born again, or New Thought, or any other denomination in between, yeah? What's important is that we have an understanding of that, and hopefully an experience. And this is the thing that I think really, where religious science, communities, people like you, knowing the truth for yourself and for others, that one heart at a time, even one redneck heart at a time, can be shifted and lifted into ways of thinking that are more respectful, that are willing to courageously step up in love as loving kindness and compassion, and to speak up for those who, up until now, have either been marginalized or, just as important, feel marginalized. Right? That we are healing centers. Now, we also need to be prepared that some people are going to hear the message and get healed, and they're going to go do whatever they're going to do. They may join us, they may not. But that too is part of our mission, I think. Have you noticed that? That it seems like there's a revolving door, right? We have all these people who come through in a year, but I'll run into them at the market. Oh my God, I got to get back there, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you're right. You do need to get back here. So the epilogue has got a few opinions in there that may turn some folks off. Others are just going to go, yeah, well, you're right, Rev. But if you can read it without a knee-jerk reaction to maybe some of, because we do have a tendency, right? We do have a tendency within our own thinking, we know this, right, to confirm that which we already know. But if we're going to find our way to the center, right, within our spiritual communities, and certainly within our towns, states, and national, and globally, we have to find our way back to the middle, to the common ground. Right? And so this little book, I think religious science is uniquely, and unity, New Thought, I think is uniquely poised to help in this regard, to where we truly can create a world that works for everyone. So Holmes said this, that let us learn to be still and let the truth speak through us. To be still and know that the inner light shines. That we are not becoming this life, but are now in and of this life. That there is no other life. God is not becoming. God is not becoming. God is. God is not growing. God is complete. God is not trying to find out something. God already knows. Maybe that's my shut the hell up. Right? So let's just take a deep breath on that for a moment. So I just kind of hit you with a lot of stuff this morning and just land on one. Right? Listen to the joy of becoming. What is it I must do today within my own consciousness to experience, right? The joy of the living Spirit expressing as me. Right? So just, you know what that is, each within your own experience, right? Or maybe just to be open, to commit to being open to the top today. To allow the Spirit to touch us. Right? And not, guys, not just in our head, some intellectual thing. But let's really be courageous today and allow our heart to open, to find ways to cultivate, right, this idea of Christ principle as the light of the world. It is that time of year, right, to connect with that and to be the change we wish to see in the world one day at a time. Thank you for having me. God bless you. What's next?
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Did you know I got a promotion? Yeah. So believe it or not, Centers for Spiritual Living bestowed upon me an honorary doctorate here a couple weeks ago. So how about that? Yeah. So we're in love. All right. Are we up? Okay.
Okay, this is our giving time. Take a moment to join me. Oh, we have a song. Okay, I'll let you sit.
You can tell you're the treasurer.
where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney top. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
That was well worth hearing.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. This is our giving time. Take a moment to join me in appreciation for this community and our philosophy. We know we live in an abundant universe. There is always more than enough to share and to spare. We use this time to open up the flow of abundance and circulate that energy with gratitude. Thank you to our ushers for passing the baskets today. Because we appreciate you and your offering, we make it easy for you to give. In addition to placing your offering in the basket, there are various ways that you can contribute to the center financially. You can use the Vanco app on your smartphone or tablet, or you can visit our website to make a donation. Just scroll down to the donate button, and our website is HDCSL.org. Or you can drop your donation throughout the week, in person in the office when we're open, or in the mail. Thank you for supporting our wonderful center, and together we prosper. Please join me now in reading our Declaration of Affirmative Giving, located inside your program on the left-hand side. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. I joyously contribute to the vision of this spiritual center, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly. And now I'd like to invite the ushers to start at the back of the room with the baskets, please.
Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful.
Reverend Mike to bless our offering.
Okay, so let's, I'll step up here just for your folks. So the basket just represents the many ways, the many avenues of giving. So for those of you who are giving online right now, just know that your gift is honored, that we recognize and know that these gifts gifts are a demonstration of consciousness of the individual that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. So now we as a spiritual community accept these gifts with deep love and respect as we know together they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless not only the vision and mission of this center, but anyone connected to the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living. That we extend this blessing to our community of Apple Valley, the county of San Bernardino, the state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, that we know that all of it is a demonstration of consciousness, demonstration of the infinite heart of the divine in expression. And to the extent that we know this to be so, we see it demonstrating in ways great and small. This lifts our hearts. We feel a sense of power that propels us and pulls us into ways of spiritual living that lift not only ourselves, but those around us as well. And that's a good thing. And together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is.
That was beautiful. I'd like to invite the practitioners to the stage. Our practitioner team is here to serve you. The prayer request box is in the garden room under the picture of Ernest Holmes. And our practitioners' phone numbers are on the back side of your program. Please reach out to one of our experienced practitioners for prayer, especially if you are going through a challenge in your life. They are here to know the truth for you and are available after the service for spiritual support if you are in need of prayer. And now I invite Lori to read our affirmation for today.
And I'll read it one time, and then you can read it together with me. Remembering who I am, the closeness of spirit is ever more present. Remembering who I am, the closeness of spirit is ever more present. One more time. Remembering who I am, the closeness of spirit is ever more present. Thank you.
Okay. And now says Reverend Michael give us our benediction.
So let's just go within for a moment longer, taking a breath, releasing and allowing that breath to anchor us into this moment as we recognize and know that this Spirit has made itself manifest in this time here this morning. That as we each connect with our own understanding of love and law of first cause, we recognize further that it is has shifted and lifted our way of experiencing life that makes us more open to have an experience of a living Spirit. And so we leave here today feeling shifted and lifted in ways known and unknown, that we move into this very special time of year knowing that we are the light of the world, shining and expressing the light of love, of compassion within ourselves, within our relationships, our families, within our community. So we feel a deep sense of gratitude for showing up to church today. We kept that commitment to ourselves. We feel a sense of gratitude for spiritual community, for this teaching, for this life that we share in the United States of America. That we're grateful for all of it. And so we release it in gratitude and deep confidence, knowing that it is done, knowing it is so. Together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen.
Okay. I would like to thank those who have joined us in person and those who are joining us online today. We will see you right here in person at the center and on HDCSL Live on YouTube every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
Sorry?